unguilty on all charges. The state just really failing in terms of making sure they do a proper cross-examination. Judge Omotoso speaking about the poor cross-examination and saying that they did not present evidence that warranted for them to be arrested, and saying that the cross-examination was indeed a failure. The cross-examination was indeed bad, and reason for that now they've been made not guilty on this case.
Once again, that's our reporter Lerato Fekisi inside court. As you can see, we're beaming live visuals for you of the reaction immediately as it takes place outside court. A heavy police contingent that's present there to capture seemingly the supporters of the televangelist who have followed this case for the 8 years that it's been on the court roll. Many of them unwavering in their support for Timothy Omotoso, maintaining his innocence. And in fact, once again, the judgment that's been given doesn't seem to have relied much on the evidence. Judge Irma Skuman ultimately putting her outcome on the nature of the cross-examination, saying that the onus was not on the three who were accused in this case to prove beyond reasonable doubt that they're innocent. The onus, in fact, was on the state itself to continue with their cross-examination and essentially to bring forward a case that can be proven beyond reasonable doubt. It's an outcome that I imagine is going to have far-reaching implications given the many issues that have come under a spotlight since this matter came to the fore, including, by the way, the nature of the cross-examination of witnesses who, of course, are said to have been on the receiving end of sexual assault. Judge Irma Skuman spent a considerable amount of time in her judgment, almost lasting an hour, by the way, going really painstakingly through the evidence that was brought forward by the witnesses, rehashing some of the salient points of their testimony, where in many instances, one witness after another, they were called inside a room, we're told, with Timothy Omotoso, and it claimed in front of the court that, in fact, he had made similar, or a number of requests, I should say, requests which without a doubt would have raised eyebrows. Things like asking some of the women who had taken to the stand to join him on his bed, for example, and other requests which I probably shouldn't repeat around his interaction with their bodies, for lack of a better term. Lerato Fekisi, I'm told, is able to hear us. She, of course, has been following developments from inside court. And Lerato, you're not able to see this, but our viewers are watching scenes of jubilation unfolding outside court. No surprises, of course, given just how many people had followed this particular case for the past 8 years.
Yes, absolutely. Even inside court, just after the judgment was passed, we saw the members of the JDI break out in exhalation, in celebration, saying, "Congratulations, Papa, well done, Papa." We actually saw Timothy Omotoso kneel down Ayanda in prayer, together with the co-accused Zukiswa, Solani, and also Lusanda, Sitho, both of them breaking down in prayer, saying, thank God that after 8 years, they've been acquitted of all charges. And I remember, Ayanda, earlier on, and I spoke to you earlier on during our crossing, and I spoke to you about the issue of the cross-examination. And again, it came out again that the judge was saying, and I quote her saying, that the cross-examination by the state was really disastrous, saying that she couldn't believe that the state had 9 days to do cross-examination, had ample time to make sure they discredit the witness's statement, but instead used just for Omotoso literally the morning part. Also saying that, like we stated earlier on, that the interference of Gqeberha, a state prosecutor who accused himself on this case, and how he persuaded the witnesses to commit perjury, also going against the witnesses, saying that the WhatsApp group which was formulated, where all the witnesses were part of this group, that perhaps this specific WhatsApp group was created by Gqeberha to ensure that he persuades the witnesses to change their confession when they get to the dock here inside court. Also speaking about the involvement of witness number 1, Cheryl Zondi, how initially Gqeberha was removed from this case, ordered from a higher rank to remove from this case, and how it was Cheryl Zondi who then advocated for him to go back back on this case. The judge also saying that she didn't feel that it was her right as a complainant at the time to go against what the law was saying for him to be removed because of his alleged involvement in the case. But I think ultimately the people that were most disappointed this morning were the members of the ANC Women's League who have been supporting the witnesses throughout the case, really gasping and in shock, unbelieving that, after 9 years of a case they've been supporting the witnesses, it has come to a point now where the case has been dropped. We also went to speak to Omotoso asking, is he going to now be deported back to his country, Nigeria? And his response was that tomorrow, we'll see tomorrow, because we have heard earlier on that there is possibility that post this judgment that he will then return to his country of Nigeria. But really, I think, as you see outside, members of the JDI who have been with Omotoso from day one, standing with him, are in jubilation because the man they revere as their spiritual father, the man they revere as their mentor, and many of the witnesses and some of the girls still inside church who aspire to become musicians, obviously elated that there is not one charge of the 32 charges which link to human trafficking, racketeering, rape. He was not even found guilty of any of the 32 charges. So a huge victory for JDI and a huge victory for Timothy Omotoso.
Absolutely. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, there's likely to be a lot of reaction to what's taken place inside court. If you've just joined us, by the way, on this Wednesday morning, the breaking news of the hour: Timothy Omotoso and his two co-accused found not guilty of rape, human trafficking and racketeering in a case that's lasted upwards of 8 years. Timothy Omotoso has been inside jail in custody for the duration of that period, mentioning there that he's relieved finally to be let go free. As we mentioned, a number of interest groups have been watching the story for quite some time. They had all gathered outside court, and as expected, there's jubilation for Omotoso's supporters, but some of those who are calling for a harsh sentence are visibly disappointed. That's where we find our reporter, Ntombezulu Baluntuli, who is watching the situation outside court, and the ANC Women's League with you there, Ntombezulu, visibly disappointed.
I think, as you can see, that they are a bit disappointed on what had happened right here outside court. And I quickly just want to swing in Mama. Mama, we just heard the judgment that Omotoso is free, is a free man. How do you feel about this?
And this will come. I ndidanile mna ile judgment yanamhlanje because bendingalindelanga into ba noko kaloku icases zakhe 63 case kungabikho nale kuthiwa ufumanise enetyala ndinewari nyandiva kabuhlungu. So umzantsi wethu ufuneka ukuzama ulungisa into zayo. Ibuhlungu le nto kaloku sinabantwana sineentombi kuzakwenzeka ntoni xa kwenzeka olu hlobo? Akho mandi, akumandanga tu.
This was Umama just briefly telling us that she's really disappointed at how everything has turned out. But I quickly also want to check some of the reactions from some of the ANC Women's League members that are here outside court. They've been here for the past moment. Sisi, Mama, I just want to ask your reaction yakho ithini ngale nto kaOmotoso kuthiwa he's a free man namhlanje.
I'm the sekaya stolanga tu astolanga kusisindo we cases ogaba kuthiwa uyaphuma hayi siseza ureyitshwa apha ilizwe lethu hayi nyani ndinqabisela ureyitshelwa abantwana nanku umntana abantu wamrape wambulala kodwa uyakhutshwa hayi sawureyitshelwa abantwana saza ureyitshwa ngulo mntu lo.
Thank you so much, Puti. I see you one of the males that are here in support of some of the victims that are here at Namhlanje court. What do you think about this case? Omotoso kuthiwa now he's a free man. All of these cases bezi against yena ziqinyiwe.
Umnosisi wami ngikho happy nge-judgment. Owokuqala abantu abangomama bazawuhlala behlukunyezwa yosisi bethu. And ke ngoku chances are ezinye cases ezaqhubeka ne-rape apha eSouth Africa azothathelwa ngqalelo. Xa omnye umuntu okufika afike kuthi ene-charges ezingaka kuthiwa ufree, sizawuphila kweliphi ilizwe noosista bethu noomama bethu? Ithi loo nto leyo asukwazi ukuphila si-free ezitratweni zalapha eMzantsi Afrika. Nasezicaweni asizoba free because yonke le nto iqala yenzeka ezicaweni ngegama likaThixo, of which loo nto leyo irongo. So andikho happy tu ngejudgment yanamhlanje.
Thank you so much. That was one of the ANC, one of the men in the ANC that are saying that they're not really happy about the judgment. They're really disappointed, and they believe that now churches are no longer going to be a safe space for any females. And I also want to quickly just cross around to the other side where the people from the Omotoso, the GDMI church are actually in jubilation and celebration of what has happened here today outside court.
That's our reporter. That's Ntobozuko Balintuli reporting live there from just outside court. And you can see there's a clear cordon between the supporters of televangelist Timothy Omotoso and the ANC Women's League, who of course were there hoping for a different outcome from what's ultimately emerged from inside court. Again, just to rehash the breaking news on your screen there, Timothy Omotoso and his co-accused acquitted of rape, human trafficking and racketeering charges in a case that's lasted for about 8 years or so, and absolutely no surprise that members of his GDMI church are in jubilation, for lack of a better term, certainly celebrating this outcome, which I have no doubt they are connecting to divine intervention amongst other things. Timothy Omotoso, of course, throughout this case have maintained his innocence, and it was interesting to listen to the reasoning of Judge Irma Skuman, who earlier on mentioned that as far as she's concerned, it really came down to the cross-examination from the state, which she felt was below par. Those are my words, certainly not hers. She's explained there really through painstaking detail the fact that the state had ample opportunity to prepare their cross-examination, but when the day came, this wasn't necessarily used optimally. She's also spoken, of course, about the nature of the evidence that was presented, but also, which I think is where the rubber hits the road here, emphasized that the three accused in this case did not bear the responsibility to prove their innocence. In other words, the burden of proof was on the state, and as far as she's concerned, they fell short in executing their mandate. It's still unclear, of course, whether the NPA will appeal this judgment, but we're all watching very closely to see what happens next.